All right, Andy Brownell, you were a young news buck back 30 years ago in 1991.
Much younger, yes.
And you've been with KROC News for quite a while, but in 30 years, you accomplished a lot, but also you have some stories about that day, that weekend, that storm from October 31st, 1991.
Oh, yeah, everybody has memories of that. I was newly married, or relatively newly married, just built a house, brand new house. We had lived in it for a month, and that storm hit. It was our first winter as a homeowner, and I remember leaving work Friday night because Halloween was Thursday that year, and it rained all night, and it rained most of the day, and then the snow began in the afternoon as the temperatures fell, and that's when the icing started, and the power started going out all over the place. And we were on the edge of the city, and at that time it was People's Cooperative Power. 1 block away was Rochester Public Utilities. So we were encountering street lights and everybody lit up and out with their snow blowers and everything else until we went into our subdivision, which was dark, and realized at that point there's no power. And we found out had not had power for a while. So we finally got into the house because you find out that your garage door opener doesn't really work well without the power. and it was getting cold in the house. Thankfully, we had made a decision to put a wood fireplace in. And we had some wood available, and we got to work building a fire and getting it going. In fact, I think it was the very first fire we ever had in that fireplace. And we weren't really very good at doing that as new homeowners and young people. And we started worrying about keeping the house warm, making sure the pipes didn't freeze, because the forecast was calling for the temperature to drop down to near zero the next day and stay that way for quite a while. And we had no idea when the power was going to come back. There was no communication. Remember, there's no internet. There's
no cell phones, no internet.
Nobody knew anything. You had to wait.
And you weren't working that weekend.
No, it was not my weekend to work. Kim David was working, so I was extremely happy that I was headed home to stay home after I got off of work here at the radio station. And so we built the fire, got it going, kept it stoked, tried to entertain ourselves with candles on and lights not working and all the worries going on, and hearing the winds howl. And finally it was time to go to bed. We stayed up as late as we could, but we had built the fire to hopefully keep going as long as it could and keep everything thawed until the morning. And I really distinctly, this is probably the most vivid memory, a sound woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was just so quiet because with the snow falling and no power and no vehicles moving about, it was the little whir of the blower fan on the furnace in the basement kicking in. And I remember waking up with a start going, yeah, the power's back, the power's back.
We got something. Well, and in Rochester, the storm was bad, but it wasn't like the surrounding communities.
No, we really got lucky in the city of Rochester. We had 6 inches or so of snow. We had the ice. There were outages. Things were a mess. It wasn't good. But you ventured out of town, rural Olmsted County. There were farms that they waited a week, maybe even longer, to get power restored. They had a hard time even getting out there. People were using their cars as generators, and it was craziness. And that was the ice. It was 2 inches thick.
Right.
You go to the north of us, and you hear the horror stories where the snow belt was, 2-3 feet or more of snow, and the winds that howled with it. And nobody's gonna ever forget that storm.
I've got a lot of stories in the story I'm working on about just that, living in the country. And I was working nights on KROC FM, and I was pretty new here. And I remember that there weren't many radio stations even that could broadcast because their transmitters weren't ice-proofed.
Right, and actually there was very few that actually had backup generators.
Right.
We were lucky enough to be among the stations that had a backup generator, which was the same case in the '78 flood. So we were able to continue to broadcast, and like I said, Kim David had work that weekend, and he might have a different attitude about this because he worked really, really, really hard that weekend. That was before the internet, so there was virtually nothing I could do at that point.
Right, you just had to drive around, take a look, and give a report.
Yeah, or just stay home and be warm.
All right, Andy Brownell from KROC News, thank you.